Hello guys, it's Michael, and I just want to be quick about this. I just custom made a thing for my most reflective surface I can have. Is I just made out of cardboard a thing so I could use this holder. Oh, more reflective again. A holder for my phone, which is made out of cardboard. So just to be really realistic, that's what I came up with, and that was my scale. Oh my god, that's such a cool start to the videos, being able to do so many things in a few seconds. Hello, my name is Michael, and I am a Amber for Batteries customer. To explain, Batteries customer means that I actually have infrastructure that allows me to now take power from the grid and store it for nighttime usage or anytime usage. And I wanted to make a video because I see a lot of comments on Amber that pretty much say, you know, it's a rip-off, losing money, yada yada yada. There's a reason that people are losing money. It's because they don't understand the technology. They don't really get it. They don't think of it. And as you know, it's nighttime. I got to just make sure there's no spiders as I go around the side of the house. And here is our 20.2 kilowatt Alpha ESS battery, which, as you can see, it has a lot of signage on it with things regarding toxic fumes or for us personnel only, danger, blah, 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 blah. The battery says it's pretty much depleted. Tells you the capacity of the battery, which is up here. And I wanted to do that. On top of that, we have a multi-split Daikin air conditioner, which is about 10, 11 kilowatts of power it pulls when it starts up. So the reason I want to show you that is to, you know, confirm I have infrastructure. The one thing we don't have is power generation, because we get advantages with Amber that you wouldn't otherwise see with regular retailers, such as negative tariffs. So I want to ground myself a little bit here because I don't want to go overboard with things that are unnecessary to you. You, as the new user that wants to come and join Amber, why do you want to join? You think you're going to save money. Well, the question I've got to you are, do you have infrastructure that is pretty much solar? If you say yes, question, is it battery or is it solar panels? If you say solar panels, I don't feel like Amber is for you unless you're ready to make a significant investment in your life, because if you already have a battery, you probably already know what's up. Now, with people with batteries, there is a downside. If you don't have a big enough system, you can run a lot of risks and you cannot afford to export any power. You have to use that power in your house. You have to know how much energy am I using within my household. And the reason this is so important is if you do not know the usage of your household, you are going to potentially drain your battery. And as a result, you'll suffer the consequences of higher rates. So I want to break it down for you what I've got currently. I have the 20.2 kilowatt battery system. Our current idle power pool is about 300 watts. That's pretty much all our normal usage without computers on and stuff. And we have had a couple days in a row of negative tariffs. This is one reason why it's great. In my opinion, it's great because you can get negative tariffs on a system where you get paid to store power, then paid to lose it or to sell it off later. I'll apologize for having birds as well because they're a bit noisy. And I want to be as transparent and clear in this video as possible, which is why I worked so hard to build an iPod, because I had a bad situation where my phone, this phone here, the good one, is actually flat. It says now at 53%. So in the time frame I worked on this little jerry rig everything, that's a YouTube channel, I decided to go and make my own holder from my GoPro and pieces of cardboard. I was like, oh, what can I do in a short period of time to mount my thing on my bob? So I came up with this little contraption. So while we're in the kitchen, I am going to be turning on my tablet because I want to show you the current rates right now, and this might be an inverse video because front forward facing camera. It sucks, I have to edit it if I want to fix this, but as you can see, the tariff right now is 24 cents. Earlier we were looking at about 50 cents. The tariffs were 50, 50, 51, 44, 42. That's what you have to pay for your power, which is above the retail rate, which is approximately somewhere around 40 to 50 cents. Unless it is about 52 for the retail rates. I've seen worse, apparently 80 cents, but that's not my bill, and apparently it might have been weird information. But other than that, I want to confirm earlier today we had a negative tariff window, and that negative tariff there of -4 cents is the low point. We had it at about 17, 16 cents today, maybe 21 at most. Yesterday it was about the same sort of thing, but a little bit higher. So we got lucky yesterday. So if I go to my usage, it will tell you how I'm performing over the last 30 days. And I've had days where I'm like, I don't want to have a bill because I need to. I look at it like this. If I want to offset my bill, I need to try to find a way to always go into a negative number, because what I'm trying to do is offset our costs of the household, but then pay for the supply charge on top of that, which you need to make at least -$1 a day to achieve that, which is a very difficult thing to do. Currently we're sitting at -$68.85 or something, and it's confusing. So $68.25 negative for the last 60 days, and you can see we have a lot of the yellow is the exports, the green, blue is the imports, and we don't export much. And some days we do really, really well. Some days we don't. Like this day here, you can see it was a $22 day for exports, based on what it says. And to confirm, this is based on volatility. There are so many different variables with solar, and I want to try not to overcomplicate things. But do not go for amber if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to make money from the volatility. Don't rely on volatility to make money. Rely on what is stable, and the stable numbers will tell you you're probably going to be looking at about 40 cents a kilowatt still today if you're with, amber and you have a big enough system to back it up. There are some systems out there making $800 a month with a 100 kilowatt battery. Now, you're going to have to do all the research, because if you go down that path, a battery that is 100 kilowatts, you got to look at it like this. It's $1,000 per kilowatt capacity. We have a 20 kilowatt battery out there, costs 18.5. At the end of the day, it actually cost us close to 20, because we had to have an infrastructure upgrade, which is about $800. And we're paying our account keeping fees of $2.15 fortnight over 5 years, and we're on our first year currently. So some days we have I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking for. General usage, you have like usage of like $6.11, but it's not offsetting based on the solar. So what we want to look at is, what is the average export price? You can see here, average export price on this day was about 73 cents. I want to confirm to you there are some good days and some bad days, like 324 cents per kilowatt. This is average. They average everything up because there is no reliable indicator. And some days it's like 14 cents. So you got to be very smart and strategic about what you're doing. On Friday, the 14th, it was 9 cents. So it wasn't that good. It was -10 cents versus the grid average. So it wasn't actually great. Apparently we had exports, and it was only 4 kilowatts exported at 2 cents a kilowatt. So that's pretty sad. I would actually call up Amber to talk about whatever happened there, because that's a bit odd. 18 cents on the 16th of this month, which is February, 16th of February. Then we're on the 17th, which was 21 cents, and 14 cents on the Tuesday for exports. So I'm going to be clear on this. The battery excels in winter, and the solar system that generates power will excel in summer. You have to go for the southwest, I think it is, which is that way. I can always pull it up on my phone, but it's on the tripod at the moment. It is very hard to remember all the details, which is overwhelming me a little bit, but I need to get out the information as clearly as I can. So I'm going to my bills if it lets me. It's currently loading because this tablet is slow. Failed to fetch your invoices. What a bummer. That is an error. So I'm going to reboot this app, because this will sometimes fix it, and then I might be able to show you December was our worst month. We had a bill of $35, but I also need to be a bit transparent in how we've succeeded is because I'm on a DSP. So these sort of systems currently favor people with disabilities or pensions, something like that, where they can get a concession for their bill. That is what makes this work currently. So currently, I want to be transparent about, you know, our earnings sort of thing. You can see we had a $60 something month there, which was $69.50. Then we had a bill of $35. Go back further, $209, $45, $71, $188, $17.20 was a bill, $135 was a bill, $92 was a bill, $140 was a bill, and $65 was a bill. Now, the first about 3-4 I was really pissed about, and I was really unhappy because there was calibration issues with our site and our battery where the system's not working as intended or to specification that I would be happy with, because it was doing some ambiguous things which I didn't like, such as when it was exporting when it was low and then importing when it was high. That was some of the glitches we occasionally had in the early days, and this is even with their AI stuff. So to be clear, Amber's not always perfect, but once you get on to Amber and they fix the things and they solve the problems, it does seem to get a little bit better, because since they fixed the problems, we've just had consistently, you know, the green. Now the green is the 188, the 71, the 45, the 209, and then we've got a negative of 35, and then we've got the 70, and currently we're sitting at, for this month, last 30 odd days, it says we're sitting at about 68, and we had a $20 the other day. So if you can get one day in the month where you make $30, you're set. It cancels out your supply charge, which is about $1 a day, and you now are going to keep going up, and it's always going to be positive for you. Winter's when these systems start to struggle because you don't have enough power, and you're going to be paying the retail rates, which tend to be, you know, anywhere from like 30 to 70 cents in winter. And the reason for that is because we have a lack of solar generation in winter. And on a worst case scenario, you tend to have about 10% energy production. So a system that can generate 100 kilowatts a day will only generate 10 kilowatts for the day. Our in-house usage is approximately 9 to 11 kilowatts per day on average. From all the homework I've done on how our house works, our air conditioners pull about 1 kilowatt each, so they're very energy efficient. This one here tends to pull a little bit more, maybe 1.6 kilowatts, so it's not as efficient, but it does keep things cool, and it is a power sink. So sometimes when you're on Amber, it's good to have a power sink in the house, and it's also good to be able to leverage the negative tariffs, which is why it's really tricky. I'm still doing my homework. I still haven't solved every problem, and I'm still planning to get a solar system. Why? Because a solar system will give us another edge. When we come to winter, I can offset my idle usage, which is going to prevent me from paying the 70 cents per kilowatt rates, if I can even get just 10% of that. Our in-house idle is about 300 watts during the winter months. On average, it will have a little bit of a buffer where everything that is using a compressor or something will go from like 300 down to 150 in the house usage, and then when it kicks on, it will go back up to 300, and that little buffer there between those two numbers, that will charge the battery up, and then that will help give it a little kickstart and keep buffering you throughout the day. But in saying that, 10%, 300 watts, 10 hours is only 3 kilowatts for the day, and you need to make up another, you need 3 to 4 times that in order to be sustainable. It is a really kind of hit and miss kind of game. You need to be prepared for volatility events. You need to sometimes ride out the storm, and you need to be flexible in your energy usage. So to strategically place yourself in a position where Amber is going to be most suitable for you, you need to have most of your appliance be energy efficient as possible. That way, when the prices go sky high, boom, up in the air, and there's a heap of volatility, you can then rely on lower energy consumption appliances to keep you in comfort. In the days where it blows out to something like $19, $20, or even like $5 to $20, like those kind of brackets, what you can do is you can shut down everything. Worst case scenario, go outside to your meter box and turn it off. And the thing is, no one wants to do that. This is why it gets kind of tricky to try and do anything with solar with people, because not everyone's gonna manually go out and handle things. I want to be as transparent as I can, and I feel like it would be easier doing a live stream rather than this and talking about my experiences with Amber rather than anything. By the way, my only affiliation to Amber is as a customer. I have the $549 credit, which is to back that up. You can get the payout, but you have to email them. I've never been paid by them. I've only ever had to pay them, and tends to be the credit is the thing that pays off the bills. Keeping that credit there is what pays off the bills, and then maybe in a year's time or whatever, I'll take the money out, I'll put it into a high interest savings account, and I'll try to earn interest on that money to then help pay for the next system. You don't want to keep blowing the money. You don't, if you do that, in the long term, you're going to hurt yourself. It's all about strategy when it comes to working with the wholesale market and Amber. And when you don't have money to go buy super legendary 100 kilowatt batteries, you need to be very smart about your decision making. So I'm going to put you into a position where I am currently. So yesterday and today, power prices went negative. Mum, turn on all the air conditioners, cool the house down, cook a pasty, go turn on the washing machine and turn on the dryer, do everything you can, boil some kettle of water, do all of that during the negative periods. Now, here's the problem with some households. You won't have gas. We have gas, we have electricity. There is an advantage to gas, there's a disadvantage to gas. If you're not using gas, you're going to be paying supply charge, maybe some gas consumption if you still use gas. The thing is, with electricity, you could potentially, I'm not saying you can, but you could potentially offset the whole cost of energy by going full electric. But then you have the problems with, is it going to cook as well as you would like? And is it going to be as effective as gas? Which one do you prefer as a preference that you end up being like, well, I'm happy to pay the extra $100 a month pretty much to get gas, because gas tends to be one of those things, so that's $100 a quarter. And you say you want to pay for that because you prefer cooking with gas. It's quicker and it's more consistent and it's more even. So that's why you like gas. With induction, you tend to have like a hot spot in the middle, and I speak from experience. I have a hot plate right here. It tends to put all the heat in the middle, burns your steaks and stuff. I find that induction is really good for anything to do with water. So if you want to do a soup, do it on the electric hob. You want to do the kettle of water, do it on the electric hob. Anything to do with water and a water-based food cooking, maybe even a stir fry, do it on the electric induction hob. It's quick, it's very, very quick, just like gas is. It just has that problem where it focuses on one spot. Now, there's one more technology to consider, but it uses a lot more power than induction. It's called halogen. It uses infrared radiation to heat up your cookware. It is not the same as ceramic, so not to confuse the two, because one is like the light. Halogen is like the light in the bathroom that heats up everything, where ceramic is like an element that you're forcing a lot of heat through, that is a resistor that gets red hot, it glows red, and then it stops and cools down, and that heating and cooling was what puts the heat up into your cookware, and it takes forever to get cooking with that technology. Whereas halogen is meant to be apparently instant. Boom, it's on, here's some radiation heating up your cookware right away. So it sounds like an option, and I would consider it. I want to see it in action before I go down that path. Not to mention, we've already spent money on gas appliances, gas infrastructure upgrades, so it would all go to waste if we just went straight from gas to electric. I would do a slow phase out of the gas before we go to electric completely, and strategically position ourselves so that we can take advantage of it. Because if we went now, we know we'll be in a negative bill. So the things to consider when you're doing energy on the wholesale market is how much energy does your household actually use. If you use 20 kilowatts a day, you're going to want to pretty much have twice the capacity. So you want 40 kilowatts of capacity. You have 10 kilowatts of usage, you're going to want 20 kilowatts of capacity. Like, we're only just slightly below where we want to be or need to be sustainable. But just remember, we're talking without air conditioners on. That's basically how much energy we use, is about 10. I'm not factoring in the air conditioners because we don't always have them on. And because when I did my calculations, it was without the air conditioners. I have to kill air conditioners during peaks. And that's why wholesale is not for everyone, because you can't necessarily be comfortable. You're likely in 10 years' time only going to save about $2,000 with a 20 kilowatt system versus, say, AGL. And the reason that is because you got to pay for a system, you got to pay interest on the system, you got to do some infrastructure upgrades, and you've got to have a bigger system that you can push power out with a high inverter rate, that when there is the spikes in power, the volatility, and you can take advantage of it. But because it's only about 7 times a year, it's not really sustainable. So it is a real challenge to work out how to leverage amber as a wholesale market option. But to anyone who is with amber, there is a few things I can teach people right here, right now, with how to better leverage their system and to also not stress about running out of energy as quickly. So the main key thing you need to know is how much power are you pulling per day. That's the key thing you want to know. And there's 2 ways you can process the information. One is you can account for your entire day's usage, 24 hours of the day, to cover yourself, which means you have to essentially say 11 kilowatts, and you might want to add a 10 or 20% buffer to that. So let's just say it's 10, you'll want to store 12 kilowatts and you have 8 accessible. Now take another 2 kilowatts off, because that's what our battery needs to stay stable, and you're left with about 6 kilowatts that you can sell. Now, because it's only 6 kilowatts that you can sell, it's not really much to try and push you up and down very much. That's why you really want to go bigger if you can, but not everyone can. You need to go big, or wholesale won't necessarily work for you. And you need to have the right system. A small battery will not work, because once your power drops down, or once you've sold it all, you'll end up buying it back and it'll cost you more than you sold it for, and that's not what you want. So that's why one of the tips I'm going to teach you now, if I can figure out how to get there again, navigation is fun. We're going to go to devices, and when it loads, which the tablet is slow. Tablet is very slow. Maybe I want to reboot the app again if it doesn't load. But yeah, we're at $1.44 savings. We've got 33% capacity. In this battery, 5% is equal to 1 kilowatt. So we've got 2, 4, 6, it was almost 7 kilowatts of power, meaning we had 5 kilowatts originally to displace in our energy usage overnight. That's to protect us from the overnight rates. You can see we paid about an average of -1 cent for our power, and we got paid about 15 cents per kilowatt, and we sold 7.7 kilowatts in the household. You can see the power rates, the prices are about 20 cents, and overnight it's going to be terrible, and then it's going to come to morning, it's going to be about 13 cents to 11, and then it will suddenly drop to 2. This does not always happen. Do not always trust this, and always take advantage of an event. When you see an opportunity, you have to take the risk. If you do not take the risk on the right opportunities, you don't get a feel for the system, it won't work either. So when you see a negative, you always want to use power on a negative tariff. Every single time, don't worry about charging the battery, because that leverage is, for us, it's 5 kilowatts we can displace of energy per hour with just the battery. The rest of the house, once the house is cold, the air conditioners stop operating at maximum consumption and then just throttle back. We don't want to throttle back, we want to pull power and the house usage during the negatives to get the house nice and cool, take advantage of that. And then if we suddenly see it keep going down, that's when we start charging the battery, especially when we get to the nice negative 20 cent figures roughly. But please be careful, because if you get into the wrong mental space, you could still lose. We actually charged too early, and so we didn't get to take advantage of the negatives being 20 cents. It's what was 1 cent. So you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And that's the thing. You've got to get a feel for the times that it normally happens, and you've got to understand the circumstances to why. There are so many circumstances. It's like the wind farms pushing power because they can't stop them from running. They have to let them run. They have to let them generate power, because if they try to stop them, they'll actually risk damaging and breaking them, which is an interesting thing I read a while ago. Whereas with solar, they can curtail and turn them off. And they can't generate power. It's not like you can break a solar panel that easily. Now, in the battery settings here, I'm going to go to the Smart Shift settings. This is something they are very unfortunate. They didn't improve the information here. But I've got mine on Earnings Optimizer, which in winter I tend to use the battery booster. But in theory, Earnings Optimizer is probably the better one of the two, depending on your scenario. When you want, if you want to understand how these work, Earnings Optimizer will sell your power earlier, which is not ideally what you want, but when you're in summer, your power prices are going to be pretty worthless and bleak. Battery booster is about 10 to 15 cents more before it starts selling, so that's what battery booster is good for. And if you have a lot of volatility, then battery booster will help you during volatility. They have this thing called minimum sink reserve level, MRL. MRL is minimum reserve level, and here's the catch-20, or here's the problem with MRL. It is a very ambiguous term. And the reason I say that is because Amber uses it one thing, but then the battery manufacturers use it for another. MRL represents the minimum sink level of the battery before you do damage, whereas in Amber's case, it's very, very different. MRL in the Smart Shift app, which is here, and it even says MRL right there. MRL is at 25%. MRL represents the minimum reserve level, yes, but it's terrible at explaining what is the minimum reserve level, because it's like Smart Shift works best when it knows what your battery's minimum reserve level is. You can usually find this in your specific battery app. This information needs updating because it's completely wrong. Do not believe it. I've talked to Amber, confirmed it, and it's been months and they still haven't updated it. This ambiguity will just destroy people because they don't understand what it means or what it's for. And now that I know what it's for, I want to explain it to you guys. Minimum reserve level in Amber is essentially what energy can Amber, pretend I'm Amber, what energy can I sell on your battery's behalf before you don't want me to take anymore. That's essentially what it is. So that means that if you set your minimum reserve level to 25%, it will only sell about 75% of the battery, and then it's just going to cut off and stop. That's all it will do. And it tends to add about a 10% buffer to the already buffer there, which is why we saw 35. And it's really not transparent because I'm still trying to work this stuff out, but that's the feel I've got for it. The feel I've got for it is if you target a number, minimum sink reserve level will work with that number plus add 10% to it. So what our target is 35%. That's what we got. Take the 25, add 10, and you get 35. So that means that we will try to maintain 6 kilowatts, 7 kilowatts for the household. I'm just confirming in my head because I'm pretty sure I'm wrong with the math there. The maths don't add up there. We have 35, take 10 off, and that leaves us 25. That's 5 kilowatts of power we have for use in the house overnight. Amber will not sell beyond that 35% because it's accounting for the battery already, which is a sneaky thing that you think it means there, but it's already done. But it's just not, the information isn't there to support what they're saying. So unfortunately, that's another thing where I can kick Amber's butt, is where they work really well if you understand it, but because of the information, it needs to be updated. That's the thing. It really does. And I want to do a better video than this, but if I can get something out sooner rather than later, at least then the people who are already following with the fact that they want to see another video, they can get on board with whatever this is, extrapolate the information. Maybe they'll make their own videos on what I'm saying and break down what I'm saying to be more clear and transparenter than what I'm saying. But the minimum reserve level has two different meanings across two different platforms. There is the platform of the energy wholesale market, MRL, and then there's battery manufacturer, MRL. And they mean the same but different things, which sucks. And yet Amber seems to say the same thing as them, but means something completely different, which hurts my heart, man. So now you know MRL. I want to teach you how to take advantage of the MRL. If you're already with Amber, you don't know what MRL is, and you want to calibrate your system that you have enough energy for your household overnight. It's very hard to tell you how much power you need between the end of the day and the start of the day. I like to try and reserve power between, when I stop selling to when I start buying, which tends to be about 9 p.m. is when we stop, and about 10 a.m., 11 a.m. is when we start buying again. So it's hard because you need to really figure out what your idle usage is and when you start and stop using power. TV uses a lot of power, 300 watts overnight. The hours between, say, 9 and 9 is 12 hours. So 12 hours is effectively, you got the 3 kilowatts is the first number I can come up with over the 10 hours at the extra 600. So that's 3.6 kilowatts for the appliances overnight. So I'm always aiming for 9 to 10, okay? And of the 5 kilowatts, we're using 3.5. So that leaves us about a 1 kilowatt buffer for whatever else we're using. In this circumstance, we're meant to have 7 kilowatts, but to better leverage, the nighttime, we're trying to just sell it and just be gentle and generous as we can with ourselves. It is very tricky to pull off because we do run out of power by the morning, and we sometimes run out early, sometimes we get lucky. It comes down to the battery manufacturer as well. Now, I don't think Alpha ESS is on here, so the next problem I have is I have to leave, either take the tablet with me or leave it, and we have to go to the computer where I've got a lot of paperwork and stuff going on, and I don't want to disappoint Mum by being here. Hi, Mum.
I'm going to be in a minute.
Of course you are. Are you happy with our battery?
Oh, I suppose.
Yep. So now I gotta go and log on to Alpha ESS, which is fun. I know, making videos and minimizing everything that I'm working on, so I don't have too many unforeseen. Alpha ESS. Hopefully I can log into the cloud. Hopefully I remember our credentials, which is another fun one. Alpha Cloud. It does take a while sometimes. I apologize. Let's see. Please. Please. So, paperwork. Mess. I have an ordinary life of just living the dream with mess and mess and mess. So, and we can't also flip the camera, so this makes it even trickier. So this is our Alpha ESS ugliest videos I can possibly ever make, which I don't want to make. And push this monitor, and I can rearrange this one a little bit. I think it's a little bit too high. So do that. And then we could tilt it. So I've got some advantages. So with the Alpha ESS, you can see we're using there's 10 watts going in and out of the feed in. We're using currently 631 watts at the moment. Generally speaking, I don't know if the graphs are here because I've got to figure out where things are. There's this graph here, and it tells you how much power you use at what points in the day, and it helps you figure out what's going on exactly, from charging to what you're pushing into the grid. So there's feed in, and then there's like consumption from the grid, which consumption from the grid is essentially you recharging the battery. That's your solar that you get. And we chose the wrong times, which was 10:50 was when we started charging, and then 11:30, and then when the power price was really good, I believe it was about 12:55, maybe later. 2.8 at 14:30, so 2:30 was probably when the power price was really good, and so we started about 4 hours too early, and that's why we didn't do really as well as we could have, because it generally is in the 12 to 4 p.m. mark that you end up, so 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. is when you generally see the lowest possible prices you can see, unless there's wind, in which case it will throw a curveball at you. So I'm going to go to a previous day to try and understand what's going on. Overnight we're pulling anywhere from 200 watts, 210 watts to a kick on of apparently half a kilowatt, 0.6 kilowatts. So anywhere from 200 to 600 watts of power has been pulled overnight. And to see consistent numbers, we're sitting between, the lowest is 0.15, which is 150 watts, is our lowest, and our highest overnight idle usage is about 29, I think I saw. And it's hard to see where the highest peak is, but you're looking for the peak, and then these numbers overnight are what tell you. There you go, 43. So 430 watts is the kick on, 480 is the highest, and the lowest is about 16. So you go for the average, which in between is about 300, and that should be in theory good enough. Then at 8 o'clock in the morning, I boiled the kettle, so it pulled about 2 kilowatts per hour for a little while. Yeah, generally, and some of these numbers are only for like 5-minute intervals. So 1 o'clock in the morning, people are up still sometimes till 2, and then they go to bed. Believe that was me that was up. So generally speaking, what you would do with a graph like this is you would look at your 0 to 8 in the morning, or a graph where everything's just dead and down. Look for the average of the numbers, and that would probably be about the average of what your idle would be. If you go a little bit higher, then you'll be fine. You go higher again, and you'll definitely be safe. You'd have to take risks by going about halfway, and then you have to multiply that number that you get, the number that you result, by the number of hours. So any hour between 9 and 10, which is 3 and 10 is 13 hours. So for us, 3 multiplied by 300 multiplied by 13, I'll get a calculator up, and we'll see 3 multiplied by 13, so I'm not silly, is 3.9 kilowatts. So almost 4 kilowatts we need overnight usage. we currently stand that we have 4 kilowatts on hand right now, so we're not going to hit the 10 mark because we're pulling way too much power. Now, to calibrate your system, you need to understand, people with a 5 kilowatt battery, this isn't going to work, because if your idle usage is 300 watts and you're using power or selling it, you're going to definitely not have enough power to idle through the night when the power prices could be up and down and all over the place. And then when your power, the solar comes on over here, you're not going to have enough time to get to it unless you have a solar system that can kick you on at 5. Your risks are high with a small battery and a small solar system. You reduce your risks a little bit by having a big solar system